Remember when you were a kid and you fell off your bike over and over again, collected plenty of bumps and bruises before you could actually ride without training wheels? Or when you first learned to write and your letters looked more like chicken scratch than actual words? Yeah, we all started there. But here's the thing, those falls, that terrible handwriting, that's where growth happens. So today we're breaking down why it's okay, actually it's awesome, to suck at something. So buckle up, because we're about to dive into the messy but ultimately rewarding journey of embracing our imperfections and turning them into strengths. Let's go. Hi, I'm Ryan Johnson from coachingoverflow.co, the place where we pour into the lives of impact-driven coaches so you can feel happy, healthy, and wealthy, and then overflow into the lives of your clients. So today I've got something special to share. You see this video playing behind me? Yeah, so that's one of my early videos that I shot a few years ago. Yeah, it's kind of painful to watch, I know. Look, I had the interrogation lamp beaming in the background. I was shining like I used Vaseline for face wash, and I used every book I could find in my office to make a distracting background. Plus, I was pretty much hit and miss if I actually looked at the camera. But here's the thing, despite being awful at it, I kept pressing record. And the more I pressed record, the more I enjoyed the process. So I kept at it. I watched tutorials, I learned from my mistakes, and slowly but surely, I got better. Fast forward to now, and here I am releasing videos on a weekly basis in order to connect with a community of amazing impact-driven people who tune in to watch me share. And although I no longer have interrogation lights and messy backgrounds, I'm far from being the next Spielberg. But I can confidently say that I've improved a lot and I'm enjoying the journey. So why am I bearing my soul and sharing my past failures with you? Well, because I believe that we have an important conversation to have, one that's often clouded in shame and self-doubt. You see, we live in a world that's obsessed with perfection and instant success, and we're constantly bombarded with images of people being exceptional at what they do, and it can be disheartening when we actually don't measure up. But here's the hard truth. With very rare exceptions, does anyone start off being excellent at anything? We all have to start somewhere, and that starting point usually involves a whole lot of messing up, quite frankly, sucking at whatever it is that we're trying to do. So in today's video, we're going to debunk the myths of instant success. We're going to talk about why it's okay, even crucial sometimes, to be bad at something when you're starting out. And after this video, you'll see it's okay to give yourself permission to fail, to make mistakes, and to be less than perfect. And this mindset is liberating and empowering, and it can change how you approach learning new skills, taking on challenges, and ultimately how you view yourself. So without further ado, let's dive in. So let's start with one of the biggest roadblocks we face when trying something new, the fear of failing. I mean, we live in a society that's in love with perfection. We're constantly bombarded with highlight reels of people's lives, their successes, and their achievements. And social media, television, movies, and even our educational system all tend to focus on the end result instead of the journey that it took to get there. And so this constant exposure to perfectionism can make us believe that we need to be perfect too, that we must get things right on the first try. But this can lead to what psychologists call performance anxiety, or the fear of failure. So now I want you to consider something. What if I told you that failure isn't just common, but it's necessary for success? Yeah, you heard me right. Let's debunk some of these misconceptions right now. Many of us have this belief that successful people are either naturally gifted or they've never really failed. But that couldn't be further from the truth. See, successful people are not immune to failure. And in fact, they've often failed more times than most of us have even tried, which is exactly why they're successful. So how about Walt Disney? Yeah, the man who gave us Mickey Mouse and the happiest place on earth, Disneyland. But before all that magic, he faced numerous rejections and failures. Disney was fired from a newspaper for lacking imagination and having no original ideas. And his first animation company went bankrupt. And even his first concept for Disneyland was initially rejected by the city of Anaheim for being too ambitious. But Disney believed in his dreams and he persevered despite the setbacks, and well, the rest is history. Or how about Thomas Edison? It took him about 1,000 attempts to create a working light bulb. And when asked about his failures, he famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." And let's not forget Michael Jordan, one of the greatest basketball players of all time. Now, he was cut from his high school basketball team because his coach thought he lacked skills. And Jordan once said, "I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games, and 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed." So, the next time that you're afraid of failing or feel the pressure to be perfect, remember these stories. And remember that it's okay to not only fail, but it's also a necessary part of the journey towards success. Now let's talk about the importance of starting. So as we've discussed, everyone starts somewhere, and usually that starting point is far from glamorous. You see, the fear of failure or the pressure to be perfect can often lead to something called analysis paralysis. And this is when we overthink or overanalyze a situation to the point where we don't take any action at all. And we're so afraid of being bad at something that we don't even start. But let me share a metaphor with you. Think about a baby learning to walk. Does a baby stand up one day and start walking perfectly? Nah, they start by crawling. Then they pull themselves up, they wobble, then they fall. They get up again, and then they keep trying, and they fall, and then they get up again. But they don't worry about looking silly or failing. They just do it because they instinctively understand that it's part of the process. And that's how we need to approach new skills or tasks. We need to give ourselves permission to be the baby learning to walk. We need to allow ourselves to start, to stumble, to fall, and to get up again, because that's how we learn, and that's how we improve, and that's how we eventually succeed. So if there's something that you've been wanting to do, but you're afraid of not being good at it, remember the baby. Remember that it's okay to start, even if that means starting poorly. In fact, that's the only way to start, because you can't improve at something that you never begin. So we've talked about starting, even if that start isn't exactly a work of art. But what happens after we start? What does that journey look like? See, this is where the concept of the learning curve comes in. So a learning curve is a graphical representation of how we improve a skill over time. And at the beginning, progress can be slow, and the curve is quite steep. And this is when we're making all those initial mistakes, when we're tripping over our own feet like that baby learning to walk. But as we persist, as we keep trying and learning from our mistakes, we start to get better, and the curve begins to flatten out. And that's where we indicate that we're improving, where we're getting more efficient, where we're making fewer mistakes. See, persistence through these challenging early steps is key, and it's about pushing through those frustrations, that awkwardness, and the setbacks. And the beauty of it is that the more that we persist, the better we get. And this isn't just anecdotal, there's research that backs this up. And one great example of this is the concept of the dip, coined by Seth Godin in his book of the same name. So Godin argues that in any new endeavor, there's usually a dip, which is a tough period where it feels like we're not making any progress. But those who keep going, who push through the dip, are the ones who eventually reach mastery and success. So remember, it's not just about starting. It's also about persisting through the steep part of the learning curve, through the dip, through the frustration, because on the other side of that struggle is improvement, mastery, and success. All right, we've talked about the fear of failure, the importance of starting, and the value of persistence. So now let's dive into the benefits of embracing the "it's okay to suck" mentality. So first off, personal growth. So when we struggle, when we make mistakes, we're not just learning a new skill, we're also fostering resilience and character. And each failure is a lesson. It's a chance to learn about ourselves and grow. And it teaches us patience, humility, and perseverance. And these are life skills that extend far beyond the particular task or hobby that you're working on. Second, creativity. So when we free ourselves from the fear of failure, we give ourselves permission to experiment, to think outside the box, to take risks. And this is where true creativity and innovation thrive. It's in those messy, uncertain moments that we often come up with our best ideas. And next is skill acquisition. So by accepting that it's okay to fail initially, We actually speed up the learning process. So instead of avoiding mistakes, we welcome them as opportunities to learn and improve. And this proactive approach can significantly shorten the time it takes to gain proficiency in a new skill. And lastly, authenticity. See, when we embrace the "it's okay to suck" mentality, we're also embracing our imperfections. We're showing the world that we're human, that we're learners, and that we're not afraid to fail. And this can lead to genuine connections with others as it invites them to let down their own guards and be authentic as well. I mean, think about it. Even on social media, do you tend to relate more to people who are transparent and authentic, or to people who do their best to come off flawless? Let me know in the comments. So, the next time you find yourself hesitating to try something new because you're afraid you won't be good at it, remember these benefits. Remember that it's okay to suck at first, because on the other side of that fear and struggle is growth, creativity, new skills, and authenticity. Okay, now it's time to get practical. How can you embrace the "it's okay to suck" mentality in your own life? Well, here are some strategies. First, reframing failure. So it's important to change how we view failure. So instead of seeing it as a setback, we need to see it as a stepping stone, because each failure is a lesson, an opportunity to learn and improve. So the next time you fail, don't beat yourself up. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I improve? And then use failure as a tool for growth and not a reason to quit. Second is baby steps. So large goals can be intimidating, and they can make us feel like we're not making progress. So break them down into smaller, manageable tasks. So if you want to write a book, start by writing a page. If you want to run a marathon, start by running around the block. See, small steps add up, and they can help you maintain momentum and motivation. And then next, celebrate progress. See, it's easy for us to overlook our progress when we're focused on how far we have to go. But it's important to acknowledge and celebrate our improvements, no matter how small they are. And maybe you played a chord correctly on the guitar, or you ran a little further than the last time that you ran. So you need to celebrate those victories, because they're proof that you're improving and that you're moving forward. Look, for me, a few weeks ago, I started a new workout routine that is heavy on the cardio. And the first time I did it, it kicked my butt so much that I laid on the concrete floor on my basement when I was done, and I took a nap. Now, a week later, I did the same workout, and I was at least able to get up the stairs before I took a nap. See, that's celebrating progress. And lastly, cultivate a growth mindset. See, this is a concept developed by the psychologist Carol Dweck. A growth mindset is the belief that our abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work. And it's the opposite of a fixed mindset, which is the belief that our talents are innate gifts. So when we cultivate a growth mindset, we see challenges as opportunities to grow. We understand that effort is the path to mastery, and we see feedback and criticism as useful information for improvement. So there are the 4 practical strategies to help you embrace the "it's okay to suck" mentality. And remember, it's all about starting, persisting, learning from your mistakes, and celebrating your progress. So there you have it. We've talked about why it's absolutely okay, even necessary, to suck when you start something new. And remember, starting is key. Persistence is your ally, and each failure is a stepping stone to growth and mastery. So I encourage you to embrace this mentality. Start that new project, learn that new skill, and don't worry about being perfect at the outset. The journey of mastery begins with being a beginner. I'd love to hear your own stories, so drop a comment below and share a time when you started out being bad at something and then saw progress. And if you found this video helpful, go ahead and subscribe to this channel and share this video with a friend who might need a little encouragement. Until next time, keep pouring into your life so that you can overflow into others.